Welcome to the Real Estate Happy Hour.
Hey, we're back. It's Thursday, and we are starting a new show right now.
It's 4 o'clock on Thursday, so I mean, hey, we're kind of a big deal.
We got to be live. We got Lenny Kravitz in the background.
Yeah.
He wanted to be here today, but
I don't know why he can't.
couldn't coordinate that.
Yeah.
A little late notice, but
Get him in there. I mean,
we're trying.
Man, how you been?
Man, good. It was kind of a busy week.
Man, hey, I'm telling you, you haven't been this busy in a long time.
Well, it's busy, but we've got a lot of stuff going on. It's still a little bit slower in market overall, but man, you gotta hustle right now.
Absolutely hustling. I mean, you know what's really funny? I mean, we're going to talk about some of these statistics here from the Birmingham market, but and it's really, I think, around the country. I mean, you got Fairway, which is a pretty big organization.
Absolutely.
Or company. It's not an organization. Not like y'all a nonprofit. Yeah.
No.
It's not the Red Cross, right?
Yeah.
But so it's pretty around the country, and so it's a slowdown in the market right now.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, I think it's a slowdown. We had another increase in rates, which is going to affect some people, change some people's minds. People don't like that stuff, do they?
No,
they don't like changes.
Folks don't like change. That is for sure. So anyway,
Let's see if I can find this here.
Man, had a good time last week. Went out with. Hey, it's always fun to get back with your college buddies. And, mate, it's so funny how you immediately go back, like all of you, go back to being the same way you were 20 years ago.
Man, and I was laughing. I watched your video out on the lake where you're sitting on the dock and you just flash back and forth to the lake and then back to you and talk about the boat over your shoulder that you couldn't use.
Courtney
and I were laughing. We were dying laughing.
Back and forth, right?
And then that was in between the flooring that didn't happen for us. Still a debacle. Ongoing debacle.
Hey, I heard you were at Home Depot today having a little fun with them, huh?
Yeah, I had to go tell them what's going on, man. It's just been, it just hasn't been going well.
Well, it's funny. I did not know until last week that they still made Zima, but it's only temporarily, and you can only get it like Walmart. But you remember Zima?
Yeah, I remember it.
I mean, maybe you were a little too high class, right?
We always made fun of the Zima.
Well, you made fun of it then, but now it's kind of cool.
But now it is.
Zima with Jolly Ranchers.
The best part was on the video. Collier says he's got the rose because that was
rosé.
The rosé. Because that was
right.
the easiest one to pull out of the fridge.
Yeah, it was. It was the first one out. Isn't it first in, first out, last in, first out?
LIFO.
Yeah,
yep.
So that was a good time.
Inventory models right there, going back to Georgia Tech.
But anyway.
So we got some update today. We got a little update on the Birmingham real estate market. We're going to talk about some 3% of taxpayers paying the majority of the income tax.
That's a shock.
In 2016, breaking down some of those numbers. It might be eye-opening. Big jump in Americans saying renting is cheaper than owning a home.
Wow.
Which, we're gonna tie that in. Mortgage life insurance and mortgage disability insurance. We want to talk about that. Want to make you be aware of that. And then Trump versus the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. Some interesting information on reading through that, which actually is going to tie back into the renting and home ownership. And then, of course, some stock talk and some college football picks.
I mean, hey, that's a packed show. But I tell you, the Trump stuff just cracks me up. I mean, we're going to get to it in a minute. But the stuff...
Oh, he's hilarious.
The stuff he says...
The way he tries to get things done is,
good or bad, right? You may be on either side, but you got to appreciate it.
Floating the ideas out there. He doesn't care about the closed door policy, right?
The closed door
He'll
policy.
just go ahead and throw it out on
Oh, yeah. They have it. His folks will have it planned that we're going to have this big announcement tomorrow, and then he'll just be walking today to the helicopter.
Yeah. And he'll tweet out something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Or he'll yell at, But anyway, well, the stats just came out on the, Mr. Arnette, good to see you. Anyway, on the Birmingham market. And,
stats.
If you're around the country, hey, I think you're going to see it. I mean, what's glaring here is that single-family homes in our 4-county radius of what we consider Birmingham, inventory down 11.5%, number of sales up nearly 20% of single-family homes.
Inventory down, sales up.
Which is draining the inventory.
Yeah, which leads to more of an inventory problem, right?
It's going to lead to a big one because you're taking, and quite frankly, the ones that sell are usually the ones that were easy to sell, right? They were good houses.
Yeah, and so the ones that are on the market now, there's less competition, or actually more competition for sellers, right? Because there's not as many houses out there, not as much for buyers to look at. That's typical for this time of year, so, a little bit.
Absolutely,
but I think we're seeing a little bit worse numbers just because of this year, right?
Yeah, it's so weird. Even the average sales price of a single family home in here, like Birmingham's in anywhere, but in Birmingham,
this is the metropolis. This is where things start.
Absolutely. Where potholes come to form is what I say. Anyway, up almost 2% on average sales price.
$247.
At $247, and that's taking into account a lot of low priced housing in certain areas, especially in our western region. So that means we got a lot on the top side pulling us up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Median days on the market, median meaning dead center of the market.
Not the average, right?
Not the average, but the median right there at 18 days.
18 days on market is the median. So that tells you kind of what people are seeing, what sellers are seeing for days on the market, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is to keep in mind that condos and townhomes up 10% year over year. What's surprising about that is I think that's an inventory issue, right? Because people shy away when there's a lot of demand. If the prices are low, they're going to shift into single family housing. But now prices are going up instead of condos and that kind of thing. And now they're just for whatever reason they're headed back into those because they're going to get whatever they can.
Yeah, and I know the draw for a lot of condos are going to be amenities and things like that, but they've got some heavy HOA dues that really affect our monthly payment numbers and can really affect your buying power.
Absolutely. What's funny is, speaking of crazy story before we move on to the next topic, you live in a neighborhood, I'm not going to tell everybody here, but you live in a gated neighborhood that we all know the code to, but it's neither here nor there. But did you see around the country, one of the craziest things as a realtor is that they're talking about taking away gate codes from everybody and allowing, the homeowner would have some kind of remote or some way to get in, but realtors, pizza guy, everybody would have to be buzzed in. Can you imagine in your neighborhood that has, 400 houses, the pile up at that gate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it already happens where, if somebody comes in and they try to dial through the pad and it gets backed up. It already happens, and people will, typically people behind them that are impatient will go ahead and push them through. But yeah, I think it's a sign of safety, security, and
it's of safety and security. I'm not so sure.
I think the problem with most of the gates, I think if the association has enough money to pay somebody to operate the gate, that would be a big change.
Operate the gate. Yeah,
we do not have that. So interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so want to bring up this next article from Bloomberg.
Top 3% of taxpayers paid the majority of income tax in 2016. That's interesting.
Well, you want to know why it's a lag. I had, when I was discussing in our office today a little bit about what we were going to talk about, they said, well, why 2016? Because it is a lag measure. You have to let pretty much anybody that was going to pay 2016 generally has already done so or gone on.
Don't assume that.
Oh, no. I got you there.
We got some issues with that right now.
Not him, by the way. It's when I'm talking about him right now, personally.
But anyway, most of 2016 taxes should be filed by now.
Absolutely. So one of the most interesting facts here, and we'll run through some of this from this Bloomberg article. In 2018, they're expecting $1.7 trillion, which will be the most money taken in, right? What's so funny is we never address the spending. I'm not going to get political here, but we always talk about how much they're bringing in. It's record numbers. But now how can we be broke? Right?
We spend it just as fast as we bring it in, right?
Right. And that was up from $1.4 trillion in 2016. So up, what is that, a couple billion, almost $3 billion?
Yeah.
Here's what's interesting. In 2016, the top 1% of tax earners or taxpayers paid 37.3% of the tax bill of the total collected.
Of the total collected, right.
Absolutely. So that top 1% paid about 7% more than the bottom 90%.
But the top 1%, that is skewed to be a huge amount of earnings, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A massive amount of earnings. The top 50%, here's where it's crazy. And I think this is what affects a lot of people. Just gets them something doesn't taste right. Top 50% paid 97% of the tax bill.
Of the total income tax revenue.
Absolutely, right? And so we have roads out here for a
So
reason.
the bottom 50 pay 3%.
3%.
Bottom 50% of earners.
Of earners.
Yeah. Means they're not paying any taxes.
But if they're on the a lot of that government subsidies is taxable, so they're finding some way not to pay it.
Right.
Or we're paying them back.
Yeah.
But now, to put it in perspective, the top 1% is about 1.4 million tax returns and out of 140 million tax returns.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are going to be small, but in those 1.4 million tax returns is going to be a lot of income. So there will be a lot of tax revenue generated, obviously, from, higher income.
Now, this is an
Pretty
area
simple.
that I think that you're probably in, but what the craziest number that I got out of this story, did you know, we should have a little bubble, did you know that there were 1,400 taxpayers that paid 3.25% of all the income taxes? In other words, and this is 0.001%. So I don't know what that is. That's like infimal of 1%. Not many. And that came out to like $55 billion from only 1,400 people. In other words, they paid a lot of money. And so, myself, I'm sick and tired of people saying the rich don't pay their fair share. Now, I'm not in that, I assure you. But what I am saying, though, is that somebody's paying the tax bill, and it's not the people that are not paying any taxes. It's the people at the very top.
Yeah, the people at the top are paying the most, but they're also earning the most income.
They are, but at that rate, though, I mean, that you only have 1,400 people paying 3% of the entire bill. That's a little crazy.
A little crazy. A lot of numbers there. If you guys follow all that,
I mean, just nuts. I think it's funny every time this year you start thinking back through all that, and it's not that you're trying to hurt anybody on the low end. I just am a big believer that everybody should pay something. We have to have skin in the game. If we don't have skin in the game, we don't tend to take care of things, right? I love good roads, but I mean, I live in Birmingham, so
that's true.
Anyway, moving on to the next.
Big jump in Americans saying rent is cheaper than owning a home. 78% now say renting is more affordable than owning. So that's not what we want to hear, is it?
No,
that's up 11 points from 6 months ago. So pretty big increase in people saying they would rather rent or they feel like renting is more affordable than owning.
Which is a little scary. I mean, we've seen it, and there's a lot of forces coming together to cause that. And if you look at the millennial Gen Z, all these people coming out, the student, we've talked about it many times on here, that you have student loans at historic numbers. The other thing is, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, I believe, about credit card debt. You have the credit card debt, which is a major issue. You guys are seeing it with people having that revolving debt.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's I think it's a cyclical thing. I think a lot of issues that came out of the recession or whatever you want to call it in 2008 when everybody got scared, they might be more apt to save initially, but probably we're seeing that switch back. People getting more comfortable. The economy's doing well. Everybody's got a job. They've got wage growth.
But I don't want to interrupt this.
They get a little bit loose with the credit cards again, and they start getting back into debt again, right?
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a cycle.
Absolutely. So the other indication was that the demand from this pool of renters. Now, we're not talking about the market at large, but the pool that we rely on, quite frankly. Most people shouldn't and don't want to stay renters their whole life. Let's just face it. It doesn't make financial sense. But the fact that we're in only, about 6 months, we've shifted 4% from 54% to 58%, saying they're most likely to come out of a rental and into a home that they own. Hey, Sarah. How are you? Good to see you. That is a big deal. The other thing is rental prices. They were going up at the same rate. You know this from y'all's industry. You're seeing what people are paying for rent. Those were rising too. And so what the study found was that a lot of people, while they couldn't qualify for a loan, they also couldn't afford a mortgage.
Or they couldn't afford
the rent.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think this works together with the frustrations in the mortgage business. This market that we saw early in the year had a lot of buyers, multiple offers, making it harder for people to get into houses, and rates just kept going up. So it's probably easier from a process standpoint to rent a house and pay a little bit more money than it is to go through the frustration of the buying process with 10 contracts on every house, rates moving up, the mortgage process in general, people get frustrated with, so they just decide to rent.
Well, and you have rising home prices along with rising interest rates that they don't understand. First of all, let's be very clear. A lot of folks see that and they go, why do I even worry? At least I know what my rent's going to be.
High. Rates are so high.
So high. It's so funny because you get these, there's nothing wrong with them. These kids coming right out of school and they know nothing in their since they've been conscious of anything economic. Rates have been 3s, 4s. Yeah. They go 5s.
They've been 3-4% for a long time, and I think that's what people are used for.
That's for the birds.
Yeah, and people hear that 5% and they think it's a high interest rate, but it's really, much lower than a national average. But hey, if we are, we have such a short-term memory, right? Things change so quickly now. 5 years ago was, how many iPhones ago was that?
No kidding.
That was
by the way,
Ice Age.
By the way, I'm still trying to get my wife to let me get the new phone, even though I got one new one last year. Because I said, look, it'll be new to you, and then we can both have new.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
it's a good try.
It was a good idea. I thought.
It's a good try.
Moving on again.
Yeah, so here's something that comes up a good bit with, obviously, after you purchase a home and you get that mortgage, you'll get stuff in the mail. There are companies that literally wait on the courthouse steps for these things to get filed, and then they market this mortgage life insurance and mortgage disability insurance to you.
Terrible deal. Folks, if you ever I'm telling you, we're going to come down and hunt you down. Term life insurance, regular term life insurance is so cheap, unless you're like 70. And then you're going to be uninsurable anyway, so who cares? Or if you're like Mark Carlisle here and you had a brain tumor. I get it. Right. But what basically is happening here, just so everybody understands, is that this policy of insurance would actually, because remember, you're paying down the note every month. And what it says is they will pay off whatever your mortgage is at any one time. So in other words, unlike a normal policy that you're paying less money for, they will pay a decreasing payout, a decreasing payout when you die.
Because the balance is going down.
Because the balance is going down. In other words,
and there's not the typical qualifications of a regular life insurance policy where you got to give blood and have a physical and be checked. So obviously it's going to cost more.
Yeah,
right?
Let me tell you, they love to mitigate risk.
Now,
they're giving it to you.
One of the biggest problems with this that I see from my perspective with clients is that they will mail stuff to you that it's coming directly from your lender. So you feel like your lender is suggesting this.
Yeah, the lender. Yeah.
Like it's their idea, like you need it.
Right? But and the funny thing is, you guys, have you seen the stack of paper y'all send to the closings? Y'all would have included it in there.
Sure.
If you were really doing it.
Yeah, but people see this stuff and they feel like it's important. And the marketing makes it look like it's important, right?
No, it does. And it makes it official, right? But the problem is what gives it away is 3 different companies send it to you in the same day.
Yeah, and I think, just thinking about this stuff, if you're going to get, life insurance, you want to be protected in case something happens, then get a policy that is actual life insurance that
term
your spouse can use proceeds from that to pay off the house rather than just an overpriced policy that only pays the house.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Let it pay you. Because you're looking at 4 to 8 times the payout for less money on a term policy. And it just doesn't make sense. The other one is term disability. Not term disability, I shouldn't say that. Mortgage disability that says if you ever become disabled, we'll pay it. Again, if
Aflac.
It's this easy, hey,
you got to get Aflac for that, right?
Hey, if you get hurt and miss work, it won't hurt to miss work. But anyway, so yeah, be very careful with any of these policies. They are terrible, rotten to the core, awful.
Man, I tell you. So next thing we've got, this was interesting, 5 facts that prove Americans are horrendous at managing money. We didn't really need to prove this.
Now, we didn't have to prove it, but we have.
But we have record high debt. And this is what we were alluding to earlier, the piece about credit cards, that we're living on credit. We're back. U.S. consumers racked up $92 billion in credit card debts during 2017. In 1 year, $92 billion. I guess everybody got excited about the run up in the stock market, and they thought everybody's getting rich. They might not even had stock.
They did, and one of the biggest things I've been talking to folks are asking us about why the slowdown in the market and the real estate market, that is. But I've been saying this for a long time. I don't think that the average person or average family, listen, don't believe except for the real estate happy hour, believe everything you hear on that.
Oh, sure.
But everything else on Facebook, they're full of it, most of it. Everybody's just not loaded with money and everything. They're spending to get that Mercedes. They're getting a loan. They're to get those new big screen TVs. They're borrowing on credit. What I'm trying to say is that you need to be real careful about that credit card, because I think one of the problems we're having is that you were talking about people not being able to qualify, and one of the reasons is they're going out and taking that easily available credit.
Yeah, and now on the other side of it, I've had this come up this week. I've had it come up in the past. And I just want to say, I've heard people say, I don't have credit, or I don't have a credit card because I don't trust them. People say they're bad. They're not good for you. You know what? We got to get out of that. I think that every college student should graduate from college with 2 credit cards.
You have to have 2.
With a $500 balance on both.
That's right.
Okay. I'm sorry, $500 credit limit.
I know what you're talking about.
Another thing to do, these credit card companies pull you in with a $500 card, then bump the limit, right, to $1,000, bump the limit to $2,000. What do? You spend right up to that number, right?
Yep.
Call them back, tell them to drop it back down to $500, only spend 30%. What's that, $150? So if you graduate college with 2 credit cards, limit $500 each, $1,000 limit, balance of about $150 each, you're only carrying $300 in debt. All right, we're building a credit score here, okay? I just get tired of hearing people say credit cards are bad.
Well, and I get tired of the parents not trusting their kids to have one. Teach them some common sense financial principles early on, and tell them the benefit is going to outweigh. Now, we're not talking about credit cards for the sake of anything related to the credit side of a credit card. I mean, like borrowing the money.
Right, and that's definitely another issue. If you don't trust your college student to have a credit card.
I wouldn't have trusted me, by the way.
Well, then, that's something that
but by the time I graduated, I would have.
That's just something you got to work on. Make it a goal. Teach them about it. Keep get it under control.
Well,
but get their credit started so they can come out with credit already established.
And one of the interesting stats we saw in this article was talking about 1 in 4 Americans nearly they have more credit card debt than they have an emergency fund savings.
Yeah.
So, recently we had it happen. Where, thank gosh for an emergency fund of some kind. I had all these windows rot out, I know it sounds awful, the word rot.
Yeah.
But I had to replace some windows. It's not cheap, right? But thank goodness I had an emergency fund to pay it, and I was able to, I had heartburn for a few days, don't get me wrong, but at least you had it. Yeah. And it make you feel so much more secure. And just saving.
Well, and that emergency savings, we're talking about another word that people don't like a lot is budget. Okay,
yeah, budget.
So put together a budget, figure out what your monthly spending is, and you should have 3 to 6 months of that number. Let us say, for ease of example here, that your monthly budget is $5,000. 3 times that is $15,000. Last time I checked, so that means your emergency savings should be $15,000.
And you say, oh, I can't do that. Start today and start with a little.
Start with a little bit.
We got a question from Shannon Harper for you.
So are 2 lines of credit and probably a rental history enough to satisfy mortgage lender? That's a great question. I think the 2 lines of credit is enough to establish a score. Depending on how long you had them, I think that's enough to establish a score. If you have a score, then typically we don't have to get into rental history. Most of the time we don't have to pull up rental history if you have a score. There are situations where if we have issues with the loan, then we have to verify rental history. But that's exactly what I'm getting at, Shannon, is trying to get an approval on a mortgage by yourself. The situation that leads to this conversation a lot of times is authorized user accounts, because the parents are putting the kids on credit cards, then they're not their credit. right?
Oh, it's not.
So
no,
if you could
that's right.
establish your own credit and get a score, then we could probably get an approval. Does that? Hopefully that.
We see it all the
answers
time.
your
A lot
question.
with a lot
Shannon,
with
let me know.
a lot with the females, especially, right? Dad gives a because they don't trust the guys, but the women will have a credit card where they were an additional card holder, which is totally different.
In that history, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. That's why I say do it in college, because I mean, sure, you're going to be irresponsible. You're going to make some bad decisions, right? But
Well,
hey, we got to start sooner.
Well, I got a T. You know, the best thing I remember in college was you got a T-shirt. For signing up for
look,
one.
these kids are Snapchatting at 6 now, right? So
there is that too.
can we get a credit card at 18?
Well, one of the best things you can do if you do have credit card debt, and I know some people do that are watching, and because we've all been there. Not everybody. Mark Carlisle probably has.
Yeah.
But anyway, really give yourself a game plan. You know, there's two schools of thought there, and you know, there's one where you take the highest interest rate card, pay that one down as quickly as you can. I kind of take a different approach. I like to take them from smallest balance to highest balance. And the reason is I think that so many people need to have victories.
They want that win, yeah.
And they tend
They
to
want to
I did
accomplish
it.
something. I paid one of them off. Yeah, that's a great way to go about it. Whatever it takes to motivate you. Another thing you can do, you can negotiate with these people, okay? They are competitive. They do have different rates. So if you've got one card that'll let you balance transfer maybe at 0% for 6 to 12 months, then use that.
Yeah,
all
and
right?
watch for the percentage though on the transfer rate.
Yeah, and watch for after you get out of that period, what's the percentage roll to? Watch for the fees too. They're going to charge you. They could charge you 3% of the balance. I mean, that could be
Yeah,
a
what
big
you
fee
could
that
negate
they're-
it.
Yeah, that they're charging you. So you know, got to pay attention on it, but negotiate with them and get them paid down. Get some kind of plan to get them paid down.
Absolutely. Next one they talk about.
This one is bad.
It is bad. More than half of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. Huh. I mean,
That's 61%.
61% can't cover a $1,000 repair like an ER visit.
So we just talked about an emergency fund. We're not even close to that.
We're not close to an emergency fund, but we're not even close to like life happening.
Yeah.
Right, and so what they say is end up happening is they're going to put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
And they're going to be stuck.
And I think this is what credit card companies prey on, because obviously something comes up. Now doesn't even have to be bad, right? Your friend's having a wedding, and you got to go to you got to fly out to Texas or what? I don't know.
Where do you go?
Las Vegas. Who knows? For a wedding, what are you going to do if you don't have $1,000? You got a credit card with $2,000 on it.
Amex is ready
Let's
when I
put
am.
it on there.
Hey.
We're gone. Okay, so then you get back a month later, your tires blow, right? You need some work done with the car. Where are you going to put that?
Yeah.
Back on the credit card. Next thing you know, you're $5,000 in debt. You're racking up $250 a month in interest charges.
It's crazy to me, man. I mean, and people don't want, and they want to go out of sight, out of mind with that interest charges. You know, the other thing I'll tell you there is that 39% of Americans say that they literally have nothing in savings accounts. Now, let's not talk about checking in their savings accounts. So of any kind, 39%. What I'm trying to say is that when we hear the economy is roaring, we're talking about Wall Street and the effect that it has on our 401ks and all that.
Yes.
Right? But if you're not saving between the time now until you retire, you're going to have financial problems.
Yeah, now the economy doing great does not care about you.
No, you
Right?
individually.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
if you're spending every bit of money that you got coming in and we got a great economy, it doesn't matter. That's
Thank you,
not going to, you're not going to go to the bank and say, well, the economy's doing great. Let me borrow a little more. No,
Yeah, no.
no,
That's right.
that doesn't benefit you. So, yeah, but going back to that point, I mean, these don't even have enough emergency, nothing in savings, right?
Nothing. And moving to the next big nugget was that people are more worried about, now hold on, you and I, we like to cruise, right? So they are more worried about paying for their next vacation than saving for retirement.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I mean, we love it, but here's what happens though. Put automatic pilot. I'm telling you now, is that when I watch, our college savings, right? It's on automatic pilot. Quite frankly, we don't even feel it because it's never hitting our bank account.
And I think that's a big deal. Psychologically, it's a big deal for people because they don't see it. It just comes out. I mean, they naturally adjust to the taxes.
And let me tell you this, just to put it in perspective, it's funny. And we're like every American. I still got student loans from law school, and Amanda's got them from pharmacy school. And what's really interesting, every time we raise the amount withheld for her 401k, you're thinking, man, because you start off when she first starts at 3%, then 4%, right? We've gone all the way up to the way 10's the max with the way they do their ESOP there. But so we've maxed it out, right? Guess what? We haven't noticed anything, even though there was less coming in. We just, I guess, learned to live within what was coming in.
Yeah, because you just adjusted to that. But you're not taking out a ton. You're taking out a little bit. You're shaving.
Still easy.
Shaving a little bit off the top. The same thing as tax changes. I mean, they changed them and reduced them a little bit, so you felt a little bit more in your paycheck this year, right? The same thing goes the other way, and people are probably like, I didn't even feel it. Now they've forgotten about it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same thing. If you take it out a little bit at a time, you won't feel it. You'll forget about it, and it may not seem like much. $50 a month, but that turn into something over a year. That turns into something over 5 years, 10 years. Then you put it into something that can bear interest, and it's a big deal. I want to come back real quick to Shannon. Real issue in trying to teach 2 college kids fiduciary responsibilities. Goes against it. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. That's true. And I think we're talking about getting the credit cards in college. And yeah, we've got to realize that there's a big problem on needing credit. I mean, credit is a big deal. You're going to lose a lot of money, spend a lot of money on interest rates if you don't have credit, right? So that's all I'm trying to get to.
Well, one thing I was going to tell you
there's Taylor Arnette. She's one that might be getting a credit card this weekend.
Your daughter.
Yeah.
Your daughter. That's her.
Yeah.
She's kind of a big deal, too.
She is kind of a big deal.
Entertainment Tonight.
Yes.
She used to be on Entertainment Tonight. Anyway, long story short, because you are a big deal, if that was the case.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Anyway, one of the interesting other thing was they were talking about more than half, at today's rate of savings, half of Americans will be broke, essentially, when they quit at retirement. Isn't that amazing?
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back to this whole thing that we're talking about, which is that we're not saving any money. We're not putting anything into a 401k. We're not putting anything into retirement. That we're paying for the vacation before we save. It's gotten reversed to where we spend first on ourselves instead of
it's crazy
saving for later.
You are so right about that. And so, moral of this story is max out that 401k. You won't feel the difference. Max out whatever Roth IRA you have. I love the Roth, by the way. Roth is
Yes.
You just max it out if you can. Next one.
Millions of us hiding money from spouses and partners.
That never would happen.
See, that's strange now, and I've heard the conversation come up in this office. And Taylor is a big deal. I told you she was. So it's come up in our office, man, where we call them to go over what was on the credit report. And they're like, don't tell my husband that. Let's talk about
all
that.
the time.
Let's don't talk about that credit card. He doesn't know about that one.
And I can't even tell you what I heard as a lawyer because attorney-client privilege, but I'm just telling you, it happened a lot.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and it really is, I do believe this is a major problem in marriages and relationships now, is anybody that asks me, I'm very transparent relative to, because I think it doesn't matter. I'm happy for you if you're rich. I'm happy for you if you're poor. I'm not happy for you if you're poor. I guess that sounds awful. But I don't think less of you.
Yeah, but you can't help yourself if y'all aren't on the same page working it out.
And people, if you're hiding from your spouse in an era where everything is electronic and everything can be found.
Yeah.
When I say everything.
Everything.
Right. Everything can be found. You're going to be found out. Stop it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to help your relationship.
Some people might have issues spending money.
Yep.
They just spend too much.
Yep.
Try to work together. Try to change that from spending to saving.
I mean, I tell Amanda all the time, how many pairs of black shoes does one woman need? I mean, my God almighty.
So that might go to the next one. We prioritize paying the wrong bills first, which is...
What do you mean by that?
The shoe bill.
Oh, the shoe bill. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, we do spend first. I alluded to this earlier. We do spend first before paying yourself which would be saving that money,
We're
right?
saving that money. We're not talking about spending money on ourselves to buy the TV.
We're talking about spending money on ourselves 20 years from now.
Yes.
Save today save it for 20 years, and it'll be worth something later.
Absolutely. And, what we're talking about in paying the right way is making sure you pay for a roof over your head before you go worrying about everything else, right? I mean,
I think you're losing some viewers with the shoe comments.
yes.
They're a little upset about that.
Hey, it's the one thing I don't get it.
He doesn't.
I don't get it.
You might need a bunch of black shoes.
That's right. I know Tara Limbird's here. She loves shoes.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to that, making sure you pay down those, before you pay down that revolving debt, make sure you pay anything that is secured, your home, your car. Because you can't get to work if you don't have a car. And you can't sleep at night if you don't have a house. I guess you can sleep, but you're not going to sleep comfortably.
You'll get tired eventually.
Eventually, you can just keep walking.
Eventually, you will fall asleep. All right, so moving on. Great stuff there. Now, here's what we want to get to is Trump versus the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. It's interesting. We talked about this earlier, how Donald Trump gets his, a woman can never have enough shoes from Valerie, she's bringing in. How Donald Trump makes his points. He'll just drop stuff in the media. He'll make comments. He'll tweet things out that he doesn't like instead of, if you're doing something I don't like, I'm going to talk about it on the television instead of bringing you out, sitting you down aside. So he is saying right now that the Fed is moving too quick. They're ruining, or they're
Impeding
They're
our growth.
threatening to ruin things because they're ratcheting rates up so fast.
And, it's the first time we've seen, if you go back to George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, they really didn't interfere with the Fed. They took it. Look, Donald Trump just doesn't understand. I mean, he's going to put his hands on everything. Now, I'm not, obviously, I'm a supporter of Trump's. But what I will say is that it's very interesting because this was always kind of an independent body that wanted to maintain their independence. Now, it's a very elitist body. Let's be very clear. These guys are elite of the investment banking world, and you may or may not like it.
Monetary policy. I don't think many people are interested in monetary policy. But I think the biggest thing that Trump is fighting here is his big to-do, or the thing that he hangs his hat on, has been the success of the stock market. And I think rates jumping up is going to threaten the success of the stock market. It's going to threaten this bull market that we're currently in right now.
It will. And if love them or hate them, one of the things that both sides of the aisle liked was that Trump's ideas are coming from a guy by the name of Larry Kudlow. Larry was in the media for a long time, but really going back, worked in the Reagan administration, but also worked as an investment banker on Wall Street. Very knowledgeable, very respected by everybody at the Fed and all that. So what Trump's talking about is based in, it's not what he's saying, it's how he's saying it. Maybe
so it may not be him. I mean, it may not seem like that Donald Trump knows everything there is to know about monetary policy or what the Fed should do or raising interest rates or things like that. But he's got advisors that do know this thing, right?
Well, if anything that we know that Trump's going to do right is he on this issue, he knows the right people relative to. And the other thing to remember about Kudlow, because they used to have one with Jim Cramer, I believe, Kudlow and Cramer. But Kudlow said that Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, is having a bit of a revolution of the Fed. He's throwing out the traditional models that we've used for many years now. That should not surprise anybody with the Trump administration, the way the Me Too movement, everything going on. Why not just take all this chaos and put it in the Fed as well? And we'll see what ends up in the wash. Now, I tend to believe that, I hope they would hold back. But also, you got things like that we're worried about, like tariffs, the tariff deal, the steel, the dairy farm. I mean, just everything factors into all this. And it's so funny. We go about our life and don't realize the impact that these things have.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see, there's some other articles out there that say we're still in a healthy range of where rates are for the economy to continue growing, and we don't need to ratchet them so fast. And I think Trump and a lot of other people are wanting more of a gradual move. I think what has happened this year with interest rates has caused a little concern. And if this pace continues, I mean, if we drop another point or more over the next 12 months, I think that could have some big issues. And I think that's what he is alluding to, is that we need to slow down.
Absolutely. And
Mitchell Miller, we are coming to that, but that's beautiful. 42-0.
I mean, geez, Louise. So I do think it's interesting. Read about it. I tell you what's really interesting about this Jerome Powell. Guess where he went to high school? Georgetown Preparatory Academy. Anybody know who went to Georgetown Prep? Brett Kavanaugh. And you know what's funny, as I was looking at the list, I'm telling you talk about
It sounds like somewhere that fancy people would come from.
I think so. And they are big deals.
Yeah. Obviously, graduates from Georgetown Prep are big deals.
You went to Georgia Tech.
Kind of.
Yes, that's right.
Georgetown Prep is probably fancier than Georgia Tech.
Probably more expensive.
And it's a high school.
You think it's more expensive than Boston University?
It might be.
Possibly.
All
right, moving on.
So, quick little section on stock picks. Didn't have a whole lot here this week, but we've got this week, the World Economic Forum ranked the U.S. as the world's most competitive economy out of over 140 countries.
Growing up, I never would have thought we weren't, because we were at the forefront, right?
Yeah.
And since 08, and this is not, wow, you can call it a slam on Obama.
First time since 08, huh?
Look, we declined every year under Obama in our competitive. Now, we didn't go very far. We went to like 8th, I believe, at the worst. But obviously, we have the ability to be the best. And, they ranked us and we're back. And one of the funny things here is that this World Economic Forum is very left-leaning, right? And so for them to say it, it's just like you hearing Jeff Bezos and them going, hey, we kind of like what's going on. Whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, they kind of like it in their wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the competitive economy, the stock market's doing well. Things seem to be doing really well. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, business likes generating money. I think overall, if you look at unemployment rates and wage growth, individuals are liking it too. I think that goes back to our previous conversation about why he's wanting things to calm down a little bit, so we can let this, or we can stay here for a little while. Things have to change, but not too fast.
One thing I find interesting is why they're saying that we're seeing this market volatility, because as we record now, we've gone up. We've had days where we've gone up 400, down 500, up 400.
Yeah, I think we had a couple days last week where it was total down to 1,000 between the 2 days, like 700 one day, 300 another day, 2 days in a row. So yeah, that's a lot of volatility, and I think some of that is reflected from the interest rates and how that's going to affect everything.
Yeah,
how that is going to affect the overall economy. I think, and it's interesting because this month in October, you see some of this, you see some of the volatility, and just for a couple of stocks to look at, I wanted to highlight, the difference between a problem with a company, right?
Yep.
And
a company that's having a problem, they're not making money,
and just a stock price that's going
deflated,
that's pulling back for other reasons. That is right now, October, the economy, other things. So if you look at the stocks of Nike and Microsoft, okay, NKE and MSFT, look at a year chart. It looks like they are going straight up on an escalator, right? A little bit of movement, but overall straight up. In October, it kind of flattened out, came down. Now, I don't think that's any problem of Microsoft or Nike. I think that is a market issue. And that's a good thing for people to look at and see. There might be a buying opportunity because it's slowed down, it's come down.
Absolutely.
But it's not because of the company. If you want to know a problem with a company, we can look at Snap. Snap is a terrible chart. Look at a year of that and the price performance of that. I think it's at $7 now.
Yeah, we're right below. Like, it may have closed at $6.93 or something like that today, but it was pretty bad.
So that company's
and
clearly
we got in.
some
you and I
issues.
both got in around $13 a share.
We don't have to bring that up.
Yeah,
But,
here's the problem. I mean, even my 9-year-old loves Snapchat, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm like, but the problem is they haven't been able to figure out how to monetize it.
They just hadn't figured out how to make money.
Our play on Snapchat is going to be for them to be bought out.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
They will
Takeout.
buy it at a premium.
But takeout. I mean, hey, it's fun. It's fun playing the little games on the Truth or Dare. I was doing it last night.
Guys, what did y'all think about Gus Malzahn? Wow, what a guy, man. He is a loser.
He's moving on. He might be moving on
That
soon.
bus is broke.
So who you guys going to pick up? Chucky? Going to get John Gruden?
Hey, I'll take
John
Buster
Gruden on the
Brown.
Plains?
Hey, let's get
So
Terry Bowden
Let's
back.
get Mitchell Miller back in here. We got
He would do better.
UAB and the points last week.
Homecoming this week.
Man,
Big game down at UAB.
good call. But look, Auburn was upset. Who'd they lose to?
Auburn. That would be Tennessee.
They lost to Tennessee. First SEC win for Tennessee since December 2016. Is that right?
And you like percentages. What I found very interesting was
11?
that they broke Auburn's plays down, and they knew that 91% of the time, if one player was on there, exactly the play that was going to be run.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
That Gus is awful.
Wow. I don't know, man. They've got better talent. I heard somebody else say, there's 30 coaches in America that would take his income and his roster and win more games.
There's no question.
But look, I don't know anything about it.
Mitchell Miller could do it. But anyway,
I don't know anything
let's
about
get to
it.
the picks. Mitchell, chime in if you want to. Here, we got number 6, Michigan -7. So a touchdown favorite at Michigan State. Big rivalry.
Look, I'm excited for old Jimmy Harbaugh getting up to number 6. I think it's about time he came out of the NFL, and hopefully he's going to do well. I'm going to take Michigan. I hope they win.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why Michigan State's one of those teams that can go either way. But a touchdown, let's take it. We may push, but who cares?
Man, let's go with this next one.
All right, LSU -6.5 at home against Mississippi State.
Let's talk about another head man that I like, okay? When he got the job, nobody thought that he was gonna do well.
Wait, are you talking about Ed?
Ed O. I don't know what he's saying.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. He does say go Tigers, I'm telling you. But
He doesn't eat grass.
love Ed O, so I'm going with LSU until they play Alabama.
Look, same thing here. Although I will tell you, Mississippi State quarterback, but he hadn't played it. This defense is pretty good. Take LSU. You got a touchdown to win.
Oklahoma -8 at TCU.
Hey, this is weird because Oklahoma seems to be one of those teams that plays down to their opponent, right? So, look, if I'm betting the game, you take Oklahoma all day against a TCU team that's underperformed all year. Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner. I'll go with him. I don't really care much about that game. This one has got me stumped. I don't know who put this line together.
Go
what they're
Rebels.
Paying attention
Not
to.
go Rebels. I don't really mean like I want them to win.
Auburn -3.5 at Ole Miss. At
Ole Miss,
Okay.
out White Renner.
All right, all I've heard is that Ole Miss has great receivers. All I know is that Auburn's secondary is beat up. How can Auburn
Beat
be
up. They're not any
favored?
good. They're not coached well.
Yeah, how can Auburn be favored in this game on the road? Good receiving core versus bad secondary. I don't see it. I don't know.
Ole Miss,
all the
take
way.
the front line winner. Take your points. And don't take the points. Take it out of the money line. You'll win. You'll win a lot of money.
Now, before this, let's get to Mitchell Miller. UAB wins Saturday. They'll be 6-1 holding tiebreakers. Let's go Blazers. They're going to be against the top 2 teams in the West and in the driver's seat for the conference championship. Isn't this what's their first year back? Second year back.
They went to the
That's awesome.
Bahamas Bowl, I believe, last year,
That's
right?
awesome.
Wasn't that last year? But, hey, look, Coach, he's nominated for the Bear Bryant Award for the Coach of the Year. I think that's what it is. But what a coaching job he's done.
Yeah, that's
to even
great.
I know they don't get huge audiences out there or crowds out at Legion Field, but, man, what a job he's done.
That's awesome. Last one of the day, Alabama -29 at Tennessee. They are going to cover.
Yeah, why would we not pick
They
Alabama?
are going to kill Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's going to feel good coming in till about 10 minutes
2
left.
minutes in.
Yeah, 5 minutes in, 2 minutes in. It's going to be a game until then.
Mitchell Miller and everybody else, y'all have been awesome. Kerry, thanks for showing up. Mr. Arnette, good to see you. Everybody else,
Taylor,
we'll see.
we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah,
She's
you're going up
probably
to
not on
Boston, right?
there. Heading to Boston
Are you you're flying, I assume.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yep. You
Be a
and
good
is
time.
she going too?
Yeah, good time.
Man.
Looking
Big
forward to
time.
it. Looking
Well,
forward to it.
we will see you next Thursday, 4 o'clock, as we do every week on the happy hour.
Y'all have a beautiful weekend.
All right. Enjoy the week. Bye-bye.